Hi Equals, it's Kim, and if I do everything I want to do and get this up on time, you're seeing this video on Tuesday, which is Giving Tuesday, by the way. Today is Sunday, tomorrow's Cyber Monday, and then it's Giving Tuesday. So I encourage you to go out and give to your favorite nonprofit on today. What I want to do today is talk about gender identity. But just real quickly, if you like this series of videos that I've been doing, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. The more that people subscribe to my YouTube channel, the more chance it is that other people, not my friends, but other people get to see the video in the way that the algorithms that YouTube uses. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd love it if you'd hit the subscribe button. And you can hit the little bell if you want to let you, so that it will let you know every time I put up a new video. Today, I wanted to finish a promise I made actually about 2 weeks ago, because I didn't do any videos during Thanksgiving week. It just got really, really busy. It's my only excuse, and it's probably not a very good one. But anyway, so I had talked about in a previous video, and I'll link it up here, that everyone has a sexual orientation. And today I want to just talk about gender identity in the same way. We all have a gender identity. So I have for a long time identified as cisgender. Recently I've begun to question just how cisgender. I mean, let's face it. Let's look at the hair. It's really, really short. I much prefer men's clothing when I look at it online, or it doesn't fit me, so I can't wear it very well, but I much prefer it. And so there is a lot that is masculine about me. And so, you know, if we consider that all of these things that we've been talking about are on spectrums, there might be transgender, and this is a large group of people, so I don't want to call it one spot on a continuum, but it's a section of a continuum. And cisgender on the other end of that continuum, I'm probably somewhere in here. But I often just say I'm cisgender. It's a lot easier. But so let's talk about what those two terms are that I just talked about. I've talked about transgender before. Well, I'll link a video above that could help you understand this a little bit better, more in depth than I'm going to talk today. But in essence, transgender is an umbrella term for people whose, when they were born, and this happens to all of us with few exceptions, the doctor takes a look at your external genitalia and declares you male or female. In about 1 out of every 1,000 births, a child is born with external genitalia that is not, it's not clear whether they're male or female. Let's face it, our Creator has this wide variety of differences in us all. And some of those show up in our bodies. Let's face it, hair. No two people, even identical twins, there's always a little bit of difference. Their moms can tell them apart, right? But no two people look exactly the same. And that's what we are, you know, even in your genitalia. Right? Let's talk about it. We talk about like locker room jealousy, or, you know, people checking each other out at the urinal, or, you know, and other places in the locker rooms and in public showers. We're all making comparisons because we're not the same. And the same is true of our genitalia. Obviously, we as a culture, we joke about size matters, all right? No two people are the same. And that makes that spectrum, that difference, very, very wide. And this includes having ambiguous genitalia, that it's not clear based on the medical community's arbitrary standards of what makes somebody female, what makes somebody male. It's not clear. We call that intersex. And that doesn't even account for things like internal organs. The doctor doesn't do an x-ray of your abdomen as a baby and check out what your internal organs are. Right, so we call that intersex. Now, if at birth the doctor looks at you and says, oh, you're a girl, or says, oh, you're a boy, he puts an M or an F on your birth certificate, male or female. And most people historically have been kind of stuck with that, regardless of whether, as they grew up, that M or that F actually felt true to them. Now remember, this isn't about how you visualize someone else like me. It's about how I think, feel, visualize myself. Right? So while you may say that I'm cisgender, that I'm a woman, all right, you don't know what's going on in my head. You don't know, what my truth is. And so I may tell you that I'm transgender. Maybe I do. Right? It is for us to accept somebody else's truth. Now we can say, is that true? In a non-judgmental way. Is that true? And is that absolutely true? And that's okay. And the person can tell you, can say, well, it's really none of your business, or whatever else. But it's okay to say, is that true? Or even to question it about yourself. Oh yes, I'm cisgender. Is that true? Is that absolutely true? It's a place to give some thought. But anyway, all right. So transgender folks, what was put on their birth certificate doesn't match who they know themselves to be. And generally that happens in the brain. All right? And so as they grew up, and usually around ages 2 to 4, that's when children begin to know they have a gender identity. For most people, it's the same one that the doctor put on their birth certificate. And so there's no conflicts. But every now and then you hear the stories about a child, 2 to 4 years old, who starts to tell their parents, no, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl, or no, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy. And, it's persistent, insistent, and consistent. Those are the kinds of the 3 tests that you put to this. That, there might be a gender identity situation going on if a child's insistence that they are the opposite sex is consistent, insistent, and persistent over time. Some folks don't quite figure all of this out until they're much older, but it can happen as early as 2 to 4 years because that's generally when children figure out their gender identity. My daughter, as a baby, I always dressed her very androgynously. Like I said, I've loved boys' clothes always, and when they're babies, they fit in either boys' or girls' clothes. It fits them just fine. So I dressed her that way, and she got to be, 2, 3 years old, and man, she was gonna wear just certain clothes, and they were very girly clothes. And I accepted that. That was my child's gender identity. That was her truth. And it was important for me to affirm that. And it happens that it was consistent with how society would have expected her life to go, because she was marked female at birth on her birth certificate. We call that cisgender privilege. So cisgender folks are people who, when they were born, what went on their birth certificate, that M or that F, matches who they are, who they understand themselves to be. And it's mostly a brain thing. And we don't have to think about it. Cisgender people don't have to think about it because we progress through our childhood, adolescence, adulthood, exactly the way society expects us to. And we never have to question anything because society is set up for cisgender people. So transgender folks have a lot to struggle through. They've got to get sometimes through parental objections. It might be parental hostility. It might be loss of those parental relationships entirely because of gender identity, because they are not moving through their adolescence, their adulthood, in the way that society expects them to. And it becomes a struggle. Often it's combined with various mental health issues, often because of that struggle, sometimes not, but often because of the struggle. Children who, we know that children who are affirmed when they are young grow up with a higher probability of being healthy, successful adults. Children who are not affirmed in who they are, and this is often the case for transgender children, they have less of a chance to grow up as happy and healthy adults. We know that. So it is important in my life to try to talk to parents out there about the need to be affirming of your child's identity. That is really all it takes. And in my next video, I'm going to be talking about how do we think differently about all kinds of things, but I'm going to apply it to LGBT people. All right, so again, if you are transgender, who you are in your body, in your head as to who you are, doesn't match your external genitalia. If you are cisgender, your external genitalia, wherever it is, right, matches your understanding of yourself in your brain. All right, so if you were asked, as maybe you're a straight person out in my audience, a straight person who identifies with the gender put on their birth certificate when they were born, if you were asked, what is your gender identity, you would say cisgender. That's the answer. It might also be asked like this: what was the sex or gender you were assigned at birth? And you would say what was on your birth certificate. So in my case, female. And then if I was asked, and what gender do you identify with now, or some variation on that question, what is your current identification? And I would say female. From those two answers, whoever's asking the questions can deduce that I am cisgender without my actually having to know the word. So often it's actually asked as a two-part question. Right? If you had answered that you were assigned female at birth, but that you identify as male, then the people asking the question could deduce, right, that you were transgender. It doesn't tell them anything else, right? It doesn't tell them anything about whether you're on hormones. It doesn't tell them anything about whether you ever took puberty blockers. It doesn't tell them anything about your surgical statuses. It just talks about how you identify. The rest of that, surgery, hormones, etc., unless you're somebody's doctor or therapist, it is really unlikely you need to know. So if there is not a really good reason, and curiosity is not a really good reason, there's not really a good reason for you to know any of that, it isn't your business, and you shouldn't ask about it. About identity, yes, but not the details of surgery, hormones, medical treatment, etc. We do have a thing called HIPAA. Anyway, all right, so I wanted to keep this short, just about gender identity, and I did wander off a few times. But anyway, let's bring it to a close. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. And this is Giving Tuesday. Give to your favorite charity today. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Hit the red subscribe button so you can help me get this video out to more people, a bigger audience. Hit the little bell if you would like to get notified every time I put up a new video. Have a great day, equals. Bye.